Hello and welcome. Tonight we're going to get you prepared for sleep. We're going to go through a checklist I have prepared that covers important sleep habits so you can get the best sleep that you can. And hopefully we can get you nice and relaxed, and relaxed. Why a checklist? Well, I think if you're someone who struggles with sleep, you've probably Googled things that you can do or read other pieces on good habits for sleep. And I think sometimes we can skip over steps or sometimes just forget them. And a checklist is a nice way to make sure we're covering all the bases. So I'm going to take you through this checklist and hopefully give you what you need to have a good night's sleep. So, a lot of this is probably familiar information, a little bit of monotonic twist, but I've been learning a lot from Matthew Walker, who is a sleep scientist. He wrote a best-selling book a few years ago called Why We Sleep. So I guess I'm a little bit late to the party, but just consider 4 years to be fashionably late. But he's got some great information. It's been interesting for me to learn more about the science behind some of these things that we've heard are good for sleep. So let's look at item number 1 on our checklist. A cozy bed and pillow. I want to make sure that you're nice and comfortable and all set for a good sleep. And, if you don't have that right now, that's okay too. Having to crash at a friend's place for some reason or otherwise don't have the ideal setup, make the best that you can. But hopefully you've got a nice bed that you can use to get a good night's sleep tonight. So I will go ahead and mark off items as we go through them on the checklist. So, number 1, cozy bed and pillow. Check. Number 2 is a dark room. Light is incredibly important when it comes to sleep. Our bodies cue off of light in how we determine when we should sleep. So when we have all of our lights on and our screens on, we're telling our brains that it's still daytime, and that will keep them from thinking it's actually time to sleep. So the evening goes on, turn down the lights, turn off lights. If you have a bedroom lamp and can dim it, that's a good idea. Everything to start sending signals to your brain that the sun is gone and it's going to be time to sleep. So, dark room, check. Related to that, and really for the same reason, is number 3, no screens. And the main problem with screens is they produce that light. It's often beaming directly into our eyes, confusing those signals about whether it's night and we should be sleepy. Especially the blue light that comes from screens. So feel it's worth calling out on its own. I know they can be hard to put down. I have that problem too. But definitely dim them down. Try to reduce the influence of that light. And obviously you might be watching an ASMR video like this one for sleep. So if you are, give yourself some time afterwards free of the screen to settle into sleep, or try audio only so you don't have that light coming in while you're trying to drift off. All right, so number 3, no screens. Check, 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 check. Number 4, no caffeine after midday. Now this one might be tough. Coffee in the morning is definitely okay. The thing that I've learned that I didn't know was how long caffeine stays in your system. So even if you have that cup in the early afternoon, you can still be feeling effects when you're going to bed at night. So it's definitely something to watch out for. I know caffeine gets a lot of us through the day, and that's understandable, but the more you can do to establish these healthy sleep habits, hopefully the less you'll need caffeine to prop it up. But do what you gotta do. But I think it is good to recognize how long it can be affecting you and likely disrupting your sleep. So avoid that caffeine after about lunchtime to give yourself the best chance at sleep. You can check off number 4. Check. Which brings us to another tricky one. Number 5. To limit your alcohol consumption. Again, this is something that is very personal, how you want to approach, but I think it's good to know that alcohol does affect your sleep, and in particular it can really affect the quality of your sleep. So even though you may feel like you got to sleep, you're not getting as good and restful a sleep, and missing out on all of those benefits, which I'm learning are more and more numerous for what sleep does for us. So alcohol is a sedative, so we can feel sleepy from it, and I think we've often, or we may have felt that in our lives. But it's kind of a deceptive sleepiness because it doesn't come with all of the good benefits that you get from natural sleep. So again, do as suits you, but it's good to be aware that alcohol is going to make it so you don't get as good of a night's sleep. So try to limit it if you can before you're headed for bed. We can check that one off the list. Check. For number 6, I have go to bed at the right time. And I mean that in the sense of in line with your own natural sleep cycle, your circadian rhythm, that pattern of activity and, decrease in energy that we have cycling throughout the day. Each of us is a little bit different in that regard. This is really whether you're a morning person or a night person, or maybe neither. And you definitely want to be lining up your bedtime with one that naturally suits your rhythm, because you want your body and your habits to be working in tandem together. So to help out with this, I thought we would go through a questionnaire that helps establish whether you're more of a morning person or a night person. It can be called morningness or eveningness. And there are a number of different tests that help identify what pattern you have. But I thought they have some really great names, like the automated morningness-eveningness questionnaire, the Munich chronotype questionnaire, which makes us sound like we're machines for sleeping. The chronotype is referring to that, whether you're a morning person or a night person. And my favorite, the composite scale of morningness. But I actually have a questionnaire. It's called the circadian type inventory. And I will ask you the questions on it. This can help you start thinking about where you are on that scale. You probably already have a sense. I won't score it for you. Hopefully you're relaxing and heading off to bed here, but if you want to look one of these up and try them out, it could be interesting to learn more about your own circadian rhythm. This questionnaire has you rate answers, sort of degree of severity, from 1 to 5, typically 1 being almost never and 5 being almost always. Each question kind of has its own scale, which I'll let you know. So, starting with question 1, how easy do you find it to take short cat naps at odd times of day? From very easy to very difficult. Next question. If you have been out very late at a party, how easy do you find it to sleep in the following morning if there is nothing to prevent you from doing so? From very easy to very difficult. After you've had several late nights in a row, how easy do you find it to get to sleep if you go to bed early to try to catch up? From very easy to very difficult. Do you have phases, i.e., several nights in a row, when you find it difficult to sleep? From seldom to frequently. How easy do you find it to sleep during the day if you have to? From very easy to very difficult. Do you go to bed at a regular time and get up at a regular time, even if you don't have to? From never to always. To what extent do you prefer to have your meals at regular times? From no preference to strong preference. When you are away on holiday, to what extent do you stick to your normal times of getting up and going to bed? From very different to exactly the same. If you have very little sleep one night, do you feel drowsy the following day? From very much so to hardly at all. To what extent are you better at working at certain times of day or night than at others? From very much so to hardly at all. Next question. Are you the sort of person who can easily miss out on a night's sleep? From definitely not to definitely. If you are woken up at an unusual time, can you wake up properly and do whatever it is you have to do? Only with great difficulty to very easily. If you have something important to do, but feel very drowsy, can you overcome your drowsiness? Only with great difficulty to very easily. Do you get a second wind if you stay up very late? From always to never. Question. How do you react to working at odd times of the day or night? From enjoy it a lot to dislike it a lot. Are you the sort of person who feels far livelier during the day than early in the morning or late at night? From definitely not to definitely. If you don't have an alarm clock, can you successfully tell yourself to wake up at a certain time? From never to always. Do you find it easy to get up very early in the morning if, for example, you were setting out on holiday? From very difficult to very easy. And last question. When you have had to get up at a regular time for several days in a row, do you start waking up just before your alarm clock goes off? From never to frequently. All right. So that is the circadian type inventory. You can see how it might help you understand where you sit on the scale of morningness to eveningness. I've thought about doing a video of asking questions from all of the different types of tests like this. If that's something you're interested in seeing, definitely let me know in the comments. All right, so that covers going to bed at the right time based on your chronotype. Number 7, eat light. You don't want to have a heavy meal before bed that is going to disrupt your sleep. If you're going to eat anything, keep it light, simple snack, so you can give yourself the best chance at sleep. It's kind of like gremlins, don't feed them after midnight. So, eat light, check. Number 8, no exercise 2 to 3 hours before sleep. Exercising will animate your brain. It's going to get you energized. It's going to move you in the opposite direction from those sleepy feelings. So if you're going to work out, make sure you get it done a few hours before you're actually planning to go to sleep, so it's not keeping you awake. We can check that one off. And we'll look at number 9, which is cool temperature. You want to have your bedroom about 66 or 67 degrees Fahrenheit, if at all possible. The body has to cool down just slightly as it shifts into sleep, so a slightly cool room can help with that. Not too cold, but just a little bit below maybe normal room temperature to ease into that sleep transition. So let's check that off. Which brings us to number 10, time to unwind. And this is very important. Our brains get filled with all of the activity of the day, and that can keep us awake. We want to create some space, give the brain a chance to shift over and be ready for sleep. This period is when we want to put those screens away, do some reading or meditation, some stretching, something that helps you become sleepy and shift over into actually being bedtime. So give yourself some time to unwind. Check, check, check. And then number 11 is one of mine. Call it the box box of worries. We often have issues that come up during the day, or anxieties, the things that we're worrying about that consume our mind as we're trying to sleep, kind of keeps trying to chew on those problems even as we want to go to bed. So it can be nice to just take those worries and put them in a box, whether real or imaginary. But give yourself that space and time to be free of those worries. We can't instantly get rid of them, but they're not helping us much either, so set them aside. They'll be there in the morning to pick back up again, but you can have this nice space, free of worry, where you can sleep. And the good thing is, if you can get some nice restful sleep, your mind's going to be sharper, you'll be better at solving problems, so you'll be much better able to address any of those worries in that box in the morning than you would while you're lying in bed trying to fall asleep anyway. So just go ahead and put them in a box, set them aside. They're still there, but let your mind be free to actually just sleep. So let's check off box of worries. Check. And that brings us to number 12, consistency. And really this might actually deserve to be number 1. It's not really an ordered list, but consistency is extremely important. You want to have a consistent wake-up time and bedtime. That helps our body know when it's time to wake up, when it's time to sleep, and kind of lock that in. You want to have that consistent period of unwinding time before your bedtime. Those cycles are very important. We normally, before the advent of all of these lights and screens that we're dealing with, would have had daytime and then the night, really helping to regulate our body on that cycle. We're able to disrupt it and occupy our brains so we can stay up later or throw off our schedule. But it's really important for getting good sleep to maintain a consistent sleep schedule. This is definitely something that I'm working on and struggle with. I definitely am not always consistent with it, but something to work on, as it is very important. All right, so with that, we can check off the last item on the list. I do have an optional item noted here, which is a warm bath. I think we're all familiar with how a bath can be relaxing, but apparently there's pretty good science for how it helps you sleep. Once you get out of the warm bath, it actually helps your body cool down, which supports that transition into sleep. So maybe if you've had a few nights where you've been struggling to sleep, give that bath a try. Maybe it'll put you on better footing to get a good night's sleep and get back in rhythm for sleeping. One of the other things I've learned that is interesting I hadn't really thought about was there are things that we can do in the morning that affect whether we sleep well, not just the things we do at night. And sure, there's things like choosing when we have caffeine, but just as we need darkness to tell our mind to shut down for the night. We really want light in the morning to let us know that it's time to wake up. Ideally outdoor light from the sun, but turn those lights on in the house, get moving. That really tells our body that it's awake time, it's daytime, and then things get dark in the night. Then that'll support going to bed. But having that rhythm and cycle established and maintaining that consistently can really help us with our sleep. So it's another factor to think about. I did add a secondary checklist, which is for if you can't sleep. So whether you've woken up in the night and are struggling to fall back asleep, or you've tried to go to bed and you're restless, tossing and turning, can't quite fall asleep, definitely it's time to take action. They say if it's been about 20 or 25 minutes that you've been in bed, not falling asleep, just lying there awake, that you, number one, should get out of bed. You want bed to be associated with sleep when you're trying to get rest. If you're laying there, building up anxiety about how you can't sleep, you will start to associate that with the bed. And that's really the opposite of what we want. We want you to think sleep. So get out of the bed, and then do some light activity. Again, something like stretching or reading, doing deep breathing can be really helpful. Sort of calms us down and helps bring on that relaxation that we need for sleep. Can also do progressive relaxation, like tightening muscle groups and loosening them to help bring on more of that relaxation feeling as well. The third item here on the can't sleep checklist is the worry journal, which is like my box of worries, but it has been found that literally writing down whatever it is that's worrying you, or the thing that's cycling through your head that's keeping you awake, can actually help you sleep. I think, purging it out of your brain, letting it know that it's been addressed and it doesn't have to keep chewing on it can help. So, if you're struggling with that, actually give it a try to write down your worries. And then, whatever it is you're doing, whether it's something like reading, you want to do it until you feel sleepy again. And then when you feel sleepy, go ahead and get back in bed to give it another try. So that is the complete checklist for sleep. I hope this is useful for you. And if you're familiar with these items, I hope it's a good reminder. Our sleep is incredibly important, so taking the right steps to create good habits around it is very important and worth the effort. So I hope these checklist items we've gone through and checked off have prepared you for a good night of sleep. And if you don't get one, it's okay. Don't stress about it. Keep focusing on that consistency and the habit, and it will come. So with that, I wish you a very good night of sleep.